Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry with Tim Moynihan.
A very good evening and welcome to Terrace Talk on a terrible night in the town of Tralee, but I'm sure wherever you're around the county tonight, hopefully there's something in our programme over the next 2 hours. And if you want to make any contact with us tonight, you can call us on 066 7123 666, text on 083 300 3300, Terrace Talk on Facebook, or tweet at Weeshy Fogarty. Well, on tonight's show, we look back at Kerry's away victory against Mayo, where the team showed huge character. Of course, it was a big weekend as well as far as colleges football is concerned, and all Kerry Munster final, Corniveria final, Tralee CBS take on Pobbleskull Corkagina. Of course, the IT Tralee to reach Sigerson Cup semi-final. What a great story it has been over the last week for Liam Brosnan and his charges. And well, after 7 we'll be speaking to Liam, and we speak about the growth of underage boxing clubs as well tonight. So plenty on our show, and I'm delighted to say tonight we have in studio John Kennedy, Sylvester Hennessy and John King of the Kerry Supporters Club. You're all very welcome, lads, to Terrace Talk.
Thank you.
First of all, Sylvester, congratulations on your new appointment.
Thank you, Tim.
I suppose big shoes to fill, the great Jim O'Gorman, but you've been what, involved 10-12 years now?
Well, I'm involved in Kerry's about 10 or 11 years, but obviously it goes without saying, and I'm writing about it this week, that I'm replacing Jim O'Gorman. And what people might not know about Jim O'Gorman is, if they look back to 1903, who was the first captain of Kerry to Teddy O'Gorman, who of course is the same family as the great man himself. And I think, I know I'm biased in saying this, but I think he's left a fair old legacy himself, Jim. He's a brilliant editor, to be
and we
fair.
won't read or see anything more about Fulham Football Club. That's I take it you'll be promoting your own club, but the very best wishes to you anyway from all of us here on Terrace Talk.
Thank you.
John King, tell me about your trip to Mayo over the weekend. It's always a good trip with the Kerry Supporters Club.
Yeah, we took coaches up there. Now, I kind of strayed this week. I went up for the weekend, so I drove up on Friday. But our boys had a great weekend anyhow. It's a late game, I suppose. It doesn't suit supporters, especially when you're travelling from Castlebar back to Tralee or Farrenford on a dark night. So, in fairness, Castlebar Mitchells put on food after the game, so that allowed the traffic to go, and we had a straight run down. And I think,
is it ever an option for you to stay overnight?
Well, we would, only for Monaghan the following week.
Monaghan, yeah, they're coming up fast.
So, you couldn't be expecting the same people to travel 2 weekends on the trot.
It's expensive, John.
Yeah, and you have Saturday, which means somebody might be walking and would suit them to travel up on the day or whatever.
Can I ask you a big question now before we start to go into the analysis of the game? The jerseys, I suppose we were all green and gold. There was plenty of gold to be shown on the night. What your own thoughts? And I'm sure there was a lot of views on the bus and you travelling up. What would it be like? And what was the analysis after?
Well, I met a few people anyway, and they had a lot of trouble distinguishing players, including even myself. When the team came out, there was hardly a clap because people were looking to say, "Is that me or is that Kerry?" So maybe we didn't have this jersey wasn't seen by anybody before, so it was completely new to us. Now, I had a problem trying to identify players, all right. Once you got
was it numbers down, John, on the lights, or?
I don't know, the players' features in comparison to the duller colour probably didn't. Well, maybe it is old age and myself, but I had trouble. But once they turned their back, we had no problem with the numbers anyhow.
Yeah.
But I think the young people probably impressed by it, all right. Yeah.
But it's an away jersey.
I won't be wearing one because I'll hardly qualify.
And if we have any of our listeners out there who travelled to Mayo over the weekend, and what you thought of the jerseys outside of what happened in the game, we'd love to have your view here on Terrace Talk tonight. Sylvester Hennessy, an away trip, it's always going to be tough. We have said, I suppose, if we can get our points at home, take those, but when you go away and won in the manner I suppose that Kerry did, you'd have to be satisfied with that result.
Yeah, it was a great night. You know, it was everything that we've been talking about for quite some time, Tim, on this show. And I know going around the county talking to supporters, it's everything that supporters want to see as well, and I'm sure the management want to see. You know, we thought Mayo would win that game. They had a more experienced team, a physically stronger team, and we thought, you know, against a young fledgling Kerry side, that Mayo's physicality would win the day. Mayo tried every tactic in the book to intimidate our players, and they stood up man for man, and
that's got to be admired.
You know, we were talking about it before we came on air, Tim, but the game of football played by the big three, which is Dublin, Kerry and Mayo, in my opinion, is a different game of football nearly played to even every other county. And the level of physicality in Croke Park in the summer, as you've seen yourself, has gone beyond a joke in some ways, in that these arm wrestles, John, and you saw it yourself, you were there, you know, these lying down on fellas on the ground and all this kind of carry on is going on wholesale. They introduced the black card. It's used in a farcical manner most of the time. But what I was impressed by our Kerry players is some of them were half the size of the Mayo fellas, and they stood up man for man, ploughed into every tackle, and then the Mayo fellas were saying to me coming out, "You're gone very dirty," and I was laughing at them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know, that was kind of ironic, to be quite honest with you now.
That was the story of the night.
You know?
John Kennedy, first of all, Kerry's line out. I suppose he did as much as he can to be matched the weekend before. The unfortunate thing, I suppose, one of those players, David Clifford, went off injured early.
Yeah, very disappointing, Tim. I suppose, you know, it brings into question the schedule. You know, he had a rough week. I mean, his debut against Donegal, and then travelling up to Belfast for the Sigerson game in tough conditions and putting in a great performance. You know, probably trained during the week and then up to Mayo. And, you know, if he was carrying any niggle, you'd question the fact that he started. He's probably out for tomorrow night's game in the Sigerson.
Which is a huge loss to Liam Brosnan.
It's a huge loss to Liam, but it's a huge loss to Tralee, Tim, because, you know, it was a great victory last week. And, you know, he's the marquee player. It looks like he's out, and he's a huge loss to Tralee and huge loss to the 18.
And his box office, the lads I was speaking to, Liam Brosnan, a few more lads, they reckon the crowd, you know, there was definitely almost 1,000 people there to see David Clifford in the last round. So he's a huge draw, and he's the guy, he's the gooch of old Morris Fitzgerald and Mikey Shees that draws those people in.
There's no doubt, Tim, and it brings into question. I mean, we heard the GA on one hand talking about burnout and looking, they stopped the under-17s playing senior club football, but yet you can get players playing 2 and 3 games in the 1 week in terrible conditions. It brings into question, like, how you know, the validity of that, like, and, you know, are we looking after our younger players? And, you know, and Gavin Crowley played, Ronan Shannon, several more guys playing all over the country, you know. Loftus only just came on as a sub for Mayo. He'll be playing tomorrow night against the DIT. So it's I think it needs to be looked at, because it's putting extra pressure on our younger players, and especially the likes of David Clifford, just out of minor. He's only learning his trade really at senior level, and it's a pity that he'll probably be out for 3 or 4 weeks now if it's a hamstring injury, if it's short, we'll let him leave, you know.
John King, Kerry's line out, you know, the Shane Murphys of this world in goals. He tried as much as he can to keep on line with what went out the week before against Donegal, and that's important for players to grow.
Yeah, I think he was forced to kick long, because Mayo kind of pushed up on our forwards, and we didn't win a lot of high ball in the middle of the field the last. So hopefully we'll get it right later on in the thing. But you know, we're kind of be expecting to break the ball now, I'd say, because we won't win those high. Although I think there was 3 in the trot that we were kind of didn't get.
Yeah, and but I suppose the early days as well, John. That, you know, there's big boys to come back in the middle of that park as well for Kerry.
But I suppose if you look at Mayo had a very new team out as well, compared with the last time we played them. I think there was 9 or 10 new guys in the, you know, I suppose we've got to look at that as well, and we'll be hoping that our young lads will keep coming and get the chance to come and do it for the rest of the league.
Sylvester, it's fair to say they're getting a sustained chance at the minute?
Yeah, and quite rightly so as well. I mean, a number of the more established players have been given time to take a breather, whatever you want to say, but Eamon said to us afterwards when we interviewed him that this is the path they're going down for the league. I've written today, it'll be in the Kerry's Eye on Thursday, that I hope that he doesn't do what they did last year, which is forget what made them successful throughout the league. If you look back to the 2 Dublin games, Last year, Tim, they were both arm wrestles, as I've talked about already. We had young players fighting tooth and nail. That brilliant game in Tralee, which we should have won. That brilliant game in Croke Park, which we did win. And then suddenly, the Ronan Shanahan's, Gavin Crowley's, Shawnee Shea left sitting on his rear end for the whole of the summer. You know, come on, this is the way to go now, and we need to encourage the management, encourage everybody to say, put your faith behind the younger generation, because you need legs in Croke Park, and you need strength and physicality, and you need young fellas running around that field.
But Sylvester, isn't it fair to say over the last 2 games now that Kerry have that pace?
Absolutely.
There's youth there.
But that's the point I'm making.
That middle diamond.
And I said it today in my piece, it's not that in any way, shape or form I'm disparaging the older generation. They've all been brilliant players, but you have to think about it logically here. Jack Barry, who I believe has to be starting our championship, because look what he did to Brian Fenton the 2 times they played Dublin last year. It's illogical not to think that you wouldn't play that man. He's a brute of a man, right? He's a big, strong, young buck, and that's what you have to have in the modern game. No offence to the other guys, but a 34-year-old running around the field, or a 33-year-old trying to do what he did when he was 23,
doesn't work.
It doesn't happen. You ask any former footballer, and I'm beside one of the greats here, John Kennedy, I've asked them all the same question: were you better at 33 than you were at 23? And never one of them has said they were.
John, were you? I think you were quite good in your early 30s.
I'd agree with Sylvester there. You'd have to. I mean, look, it's time to give them. It was refreshing the last night with down to 13 men. The work rate and the intensity and the turnovers that we had. You know, and as John said earlier on, you know, Mayo are a big physical team. They're good on the tackle. They play on the verge most of the time. But we got stuck into them, and you know, our leaders came good as well. Paul Gainey and Paul Murphy really led by example. But the younger lads came through too. I mean, Brian Begley really started off the game very well. Burns is playing great stuff. Jason Foley, he was inside more of the defender the last night, which I like to see. Did really well too. Yeah. You know, and you know, it's good to see these lads coming through. And Jack Barry and Barry O'Sullivan, they'll learn from that as well, because you're playing tough games, high intensity, down to 13 men. How would we win the game? We dug it out, and that's very good to see, and that's great for the confidence.
And you alluded to, or Sylvester alluded to there, about the physicality, and you won't be bullied in any part of the field, or you know, they stood up to Mayo. Probably, I know it was an inexperienced Mayo side as well, but there was a couple of guys that have come through a lot of championship matches. But a great duel between Gavin Crowley at times and Aidan O'Shea.
Absolutely, and Gavin Crowley typifies the youth. You know, there's no fear. He throws.
Is that because there's no baggage, John?
I think it is, Tim. And look, he's out to prove a point. And you know, not alone did he do a good job as a defender, but he stuck a great goal. He had the confidence to go for it. Like, and you know, he looks like being, I won't say cocky, but really confident player. He gets stuck in. He's not afraid to get into the Aidan O'Shea the last.
But the point is, John, these guys are bursting to get the gold jersey, but they're bursting to get in there. They want to do it. They're doing everything in their power. They're not worried that they're going to make a mistake. They have to try things, because they have to impress the management in order even to be part of the panel.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing is, we have to give credit to the management. They seem to be in great condition.
Yes.
You know, they're
so early in the league.
This is very good, and their stamina is good, and this is early in the season. Obviously, they're still doing hard work. So it augurs very well for the summer, because like John said, when you get into Croke Park, you know, the Mayos and the Dublins and the Terrace, whoever's there in the last 4, you have to have gears, you have to be able to run, you have to have pace, and we have that now.
John, is that what people are saying on the Kerry support? These guys have seen, like yourself, a lot of games down through the years. Is that what they're saying? This travelling party that go the length and breadth of Ireland, are they saying youth is getting its chance, and are they're happy and they're hopeful? Yeah.
I mean, travelling up to the semi-final last year, everyone was saying, right, we'll see Shawnee Shea in action today, and it never happened. And like, people were, they were disappointed afterwards, because looking at him playing with his club, and in the underage, he's been top class. Now, I know the last day he was called in to kick a penalty, and I think it was word that came from the sideline. And I suppose when you're looking at a wet, sticky pitch, expecting a young fella to do it right in his second game as senior. The other thing that impressed me last was Gavin Crowley. Right in front of us in the stand, Shea had him by the front of the jersey, and he trying to boss him. And your man just stood his ground and gave out as good as he got. And your man got no satisfaction from it all.
Probably
great to see.
Typified the whole of Kerry's performance. Before we go to break, of course, you, the listener out there, we're looking to compile a list of exceptional club players, whether it be through the number of years played, the records broken, or the dedication to the club. Send in your recommendations to us here on Terrace Talk on 083 300 3300, or phone us on 066 71 23666. Plenty more after this break.
Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry with Tim Moynihan. Mondays from 6 to 8 p.m.
You're very welcome back here to Terrace Talk, and of course we want your comments coming through to us, and I'll read a few in just a moment. But if you were at that game of the weekend, or if you watched it on telly, or listened to our commentary here on Radio Kerry, which was very well done by Gary O'Sullivan and Amherst O'Donovan, who stood out for you? Who would you like to see starting in next weekend's game? And were you there to see Kerry hurlers take on Carlow yesterday? And tell us any thoughts on that performance. Also, the IT Tralee are out tomorrow night in the quarter-final of the Sigerson Cup here in the town of Tralee. And those comments coming through to us, Kerry showed that letting the exuberance of youth thrive is the recipe for the future. Their lack of fear, coupled with tremendous character, was a joy to behold. Gold jersey was hopefully a sign of golden generation, about to confer more golden years. That comes via Twitter from Trevor O'Sullivan. Thank you, Trevor. Should Paul Geaney have been given the penalty kick, he being more experienced under pressure? A great win in Mayo. Proud of our lads in their new kit. We had a happy trip home. Kerry, and that comes from Anna. Good evening. What a fantastic night in Castlebar. The pride and determination showed by our young men is very positive and admirable. It is a credit for the underage structure that have reaped the rewards over the past few years. The jerseys are absolutely beautiful, they tell us. John Kennedy, what's coming across in text messages here, there's no negativity whatsoever. Youth is getting its chance. It was demanded that youth get its chance, and to be fair to MFS Morris and his selectors, that's what's actually happening. So overall, winning with 13 men, you've got to admire the character and what they were. Look at the Mayo for a second. How good were Mayo the last night?
Well, Tim, they were missing quite a few of their starting 15, but your question where Mayo are at the moment in comparison to Kerry, we seem to be in good shape physically and fitness-wise. Mayo were on a holiday and they're just back. Is the league their priority? Maybe not. We're not sure, but I'd be more positive on the way we played rather than how Mayo played, because Mayo are always tough. In Castlebar, they're always difficult to beat. Since Rochford came in, I think the home games he targets to win. On the road, maybe do a bit of changing and chopping around. Kerry were in control the last night, Tim. They almost contributed to their own downfall with the black cards, or with the 2 yellow cards, losing Ron and Shanahan first of all, and then Gavin Crowley. It was a big ask. But it was a good thing because we were under pressure. Mayo seemed to have us on the back foot, down to 13. You're playing against an experienced team. The likes of Aidan O'Shea, Andy Moran was in there. These guys, Colin Boyle came on. They were going at us, but we didn't. We retreated back. We played a more defensive game. We had our leaders on the ball. We recycled it very well. And the likes of Adam Barry coming in there, did so well when he came in. He was very composed on the ball. Michal Burns, Jason Foley, they held the ball very well. Jack Savage, they didn't shoot from outside the zone. They engineered the scores. Particularly, I think Paul Murphy kicked a superb score. Paul Geaney got a pass from Paul Murphy, took it on his left, took on the responsibility and put it over the bar. They were killer blows to Mayo because Mayo had us on the back foot. They needed the scores. They missed a few frees, which you'd question maybe what Mayo did. Killian O'Connor coming on the field, cold, took a free and kicked it wide.
Yeah, he wasn't definitely.
Jason Doherty had been kicking, and but look, that's we
that's
look
for Mayo to
that's
think
for Mayo to think. We look at our own very positive team. You'd have to be positive. Anyone that would be negative about the performance, they were not looking at the game we were looking at. It's onwards and upwards for Kerry. Another tough game against Monaghan to come, but we've 4 points, great start, and this is a huge boost to the young lads. They've got their chance, and it's all about confidence. Winning with 13 men to reinforce it again. There's a real pep in the step. Yeah.
Can we talk about the different lines, Sylvester? We start with our keeper, Shane Murphy. How would we look at his performance the previous week against Donegal? How would you say you'd rate him on?
Look, I'd put it this way. The first goal, some people said he could have saved it. Maybe it's been a little bit harsh on him. It was a low, hard-struck shot, right? It's not an easy one to save. The penalty, you wouldn't blame him for that. He fumbled one ball in front of him and gave away a free. Kickouts were okay, but then again he was kicking out to a team that was at 13 men for a lot of the second half. I think he's doing fine. You must remember that's only his second appearance as well, and he certainly needs to be persisted with and looked at, but I presume Brian Kelly will be getting a run as well throughout the league.
Full back line?
Full back line, I thought Jason Foley had an excellent game. He defended well.
Strong.
The way we expect him to defend, he loves that big dash in him. He comes out, he's a proper defender, you know. And I really like Jason, and I think they need to persist with him. Bruno Begli, I thought, was outstanding until he was unfortunately given the black card. I know he fouled the man for the penalty, but his play around the middle third was fantastic, picking up breaks. And Shane Enright improved an awful lot on his performances of late, and I thought he did very, very well.
Things haven't gone in previous games for him
showed
against
great
Mayo.
leadership, and that save on the line won us the game.
Yeah, and
you know?
John made a very good point the last night as well, that Shane is normally put on the most dangerous
But to be fair to him as well, he gets little protection in that full back line, and he's always one-on-one. Tom Sullivan used to be the man before, I remember as well. You have to be fair to guys too.
Yeah. Well,
I think Shane
is there a problem further out?
Shane still has plenty to offer, no doubt about it.
The half-back line, John, the last night?
I suppose Paul Murphy had another outstanding game. I mean, there was one free he took there across the field. Paul Genny got a point out of it. I thought that was a super kick under the underfoot conditions. Gavin Crowley, as we said already, he's a great prospect, and I think he has a lot going for him. He'll be very good in the future. Ronan, I suppose he was cut for the yellow card, but you know, he's learning. He was very good in the league last year, but then he was forgotten about. So they're starting from scratch again to get into up the speed of the county game.
John Kerry, John just mentioned Paul Murphy going forward. How is Paul Murphy defending? Well, what was scored against him the last night?
He's playing. I don't think there was, Tim, being honest with you now.
2-1.
They only got 1-2
one was from a penalty, to be fair.
No, I think you know, it is more his leadership, Tim. He is a link between the defence and the attack.
And that's what I'd always like to ask you. You know, your primary function is to defend, but when we see players going forward and they, you know, and he is probably the most, he's a warrior for the size of him, but he's a leader as well. But sometimes do we neglect our defensive duties if we keep going forward?
Well, you're right, Tim. It's a balance.
You know, over the years, we have defenders going forward, they're kicking 2 points.
Yeah, it's a balance, I think, you know.
Yeah.
But rarely, Tim, has Paul been taken for 4 or 5 points from play now. You rarely see that. He has the ability to get up, but to get back as well. And, you know, I think the system we have, it affords him that opportunity to go, because there's guys dropping back into the zone, which allows him the freedom to go. And I think the last night, particularly when the game was in the balance, he certainly showed his strength, he showed his leadership qualities, and he found the right man at the right time. And I thought, particularly the one to Paul Gainey, he knew the man that was going to get the score.
He's a clever player.
The goal as well, in fairness, came from a throw-in, remember, and Paul was pointing over to Diarmuid Connor for some, you know, he was in a different position trying to pick up the break, so it would be kind of unfair to blame him for either of the goals that he was conceded against, to be fair about it.
Can I ask you about Ronan Shanahan?
Yeah. Well, what happened with Ronan Shannon, look, from a stats man's point of view, I was counting his fouls, and I thought he had a very good game. I think he was very good in Killarney, very good again, but needs to obviously look at the rashness of his challenges and his tackles, just like Gavin Crowley. But he had committed 3 fouls up to the time, or 2 fouls, I think, up to the time he got the yellow card. Then he had another rash challenge, could have been sent off and wasn't. The management, in fairness, did react. They had a man on the sideline waiting to replace him,
to get another yellow.
But there was no break in play, and Ronan was caught again, and that was his 5th foul. So he certainly deserved. And
you have to. I suppose you have to admire the management wanting to make the move as well.
No, I have to defend him in this situation. Yeah. They had the player lined up. They were ready to replace him. It just happened that there was no break in play. They couldn't bring him on.
John, the middle of the park. You know, we're saying that a lot of clean fielding in the last 2 games by Kerry around the middle side. But I suppose the big thing, and coming here, I suppose, the last couple of years, we were always asking for mobility in that middle diamond. Do you sacrifice big midfielders that play between the 245s for mobile players?
Well, I suppose when you're winning your games, you have to be happy enough with them. The only thing is we're not fielding high balls, but I suppose the modern game doesn't tend to lend itself for that. I suppose they'll keep experimenting for the rest of the league, I'm sure. I mean, Dahi Casey might get a run in there at some stage. David Morton is out for the long term, I think, so we'll have to work with what's available on the subs in the meantime.
John Kennedy, is there any word on Anthony Maher? Is he training? Is he...
He's playing with his club to watch him, and I think
that's a good sign.
On a rehab programme, you know. But I think coming to the midfield, Tim, if you look at the opposition, what influence had Gibbons and Barry Morgan on the game? very little. Barry Moran kicked a point, and Jack Barry handled an awful lot of ball, I thought, on the night, and Barry Sullivan, he was available. They were linkmen. You'd have to agree with John, is these long kick-outs, they're going out of the game, but I thought their work rate and their linking and being available, I thought they did quite well.
John, what's the next part of their game now? We said that it's doggy-dog in the middle of the park. You have to fight for possession. It's a vital sector, obviously. Is it a case of being the link player for that last score and assist? I was reading somewhere in the last 24 hours where Dublin midfielders have assisted 1-5 in the past 2 games. Is that the next phase where these guys have to develop to be brave enough to go forward, like the runs from Donald Daly in years gone by, to develop as a midfielder?
Absolutely. But you look at Jack Barry, I mean, you judge by the better players, and Brian Finton is one of the top midfielders in the country. Jack Barry actually nullified him last year.
Correct.
On 2 occasions. Now, did Jack Barry handle a lot of ball against Brian Finton? Maybe not. But what did Brian Finton do? His influence in the game was very little. So, I mean, that's a victory for Kerry. That's a box ticked, really, isn't it? So, I mean, it's not about handling the ball, but it's about, especially in the middle third, it's about not letting the opposition get possession.
Primary possession.
And the top class players, the marquee players, you have to mark them out of it. And if that means you lose a player for his contribution to your own team, but he cuts out the opposition, well, that's a victory.
That's a job done. Sylvester, we move to the half-forward line. How would you rate our Kerry boys?
Micheál Burns had an excellent game, scored 2 points, buzzed around the field.
This is a confident player, isn't it?
Yeah, he's a real tiger, and I like him, and he has a real gatch about him, and of course he's an excellent player. Seanie O'Shea, what you say about Seanie O'Shea? Yes, he missed the penalty. He missed the 45 after.
Kicked one after,
and you guess what he did then? Pops up, pass into a man, sets up a score, 2 assists, 3 scores. Brilliant footballer. We knew that anyway about him. Stephen O'Brien, quietish game. Still contributed.
Stephen worked really
hard, in fairness to him, but was taken off early. Now, I don't know, was that an injury or was it just a management decision? Bringing on Brendan O'Sullivan worked. What I would say about Stephen is he needs to produce it every single game, right? And he's such a good player that you need to see a top class performance from all the time to be a really, really top quality player. And I think he has that ability, by the way.
We'll look at our full forward line after this break, and I'll just read a quick text. Hi Tim, well done to Kerry on a fine win. Played some great football, showed great character and stood up to Mayo's bully boy tactics. Great to see Shane Enright back on top form. That comes from Charles. We now take a break.
From the sidelines to the stand, Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry.
You're very welcome back here to Terrace Talk. Of course, I have John Kennedy, Sylvester Hennessy and John King in studio discussing the weekend's happenings up in Castlebar, where Kerry had that great victory. I'll read 1 or 2 comments. A Kerryman who lives in Donegal says, youth know no fear. Give them their go. Also get rid of that horrible gold jersey. Hi Tim, congrats to a young Kerry team versus Mayo, showed true character in a tough environment. One crib to mention, management did not act quick enough when we had a defender on a yellow. Well, Sylvester I think covered that before the break. I got 2 warnings prior to the red card shown. Mayo targeted him until a needless red card was shown to put him under serious pressure, which thank God they stood up to, and that comes from John Lane. Now I should have Martin Horgan on the line. Of course, Martin was in with us on Terrace Talk last week when we were covering post the Donegal game. Good evening, Martin.
Good evening, Tim.
Well, Martin, I have the 3 lads in studio with us here, and we look back at the weekend. I suppose overall, pretty fruitful weekend as far as Kerry was concerned. Went to Mayo, and you don't know what to expect when you go to Mayo, but to come back with an away win, very important.
No, it was very important, extremely encouraging again, Tim. Very similar to last week's game. Look, to be fair, it's Kerry's 4th win from 9 league matches. We'll say, one before that it's been back in 2009, Tim. My records stand correct. Back in 2009 was the last time that Kerry won their first 2 opening league games. So we're going back a long, long time, and to do it in a manner that A, they did above in Castlebar, and B, to do it in a way that, with the young guys giving them as the listener said, giving youth its fling one more time. That's impressive.
And is that there was a call from the general public for this as well, Martin, and to be fair, the management team of Kerry are delivering. It's very important these guys get, whether you have a good game or a bad game. Like, I've got a text message in here and says, a former goalie says Shane Murphy has conceded 5 goals in 2 games. Should Shane Ryan get a go? That's a text message we've just received. But, Shane Murphy is probably the most outstanding keeper in the past 2 seasons at county championship level. Just because he conceded 5 goals, there could be problems elsewhere in the team. So Shane Murphy deserves a sustained chance.
I agree, Tim. I think that's an unfair comment on Shane Murphy, to be quite honest. Going back to, obviously Mayo scored a penalty, but if you look at this goal that Mayo scored from play, so that's to mention it was a throw-up, or it was a throw-in, and it was, but, when you look at the video back and when you slow it down and when you put it into slow-mo, from my analysis, Tim, Aidan O'Shea took 12 steps before he bounced the ball, before he gave the offload to O'Connor. So that wouldn't have a whole pile to do with Shane Murphy. The referee got that one wrong in my view. And was it a defensive error from a collective point of view? Again, that's something else we'll have to look at maybe when we do a comparison analysis with defending. So no, look, overall, that's a very unfair comment on Shane Murphy, I think. I do think that there, maybe 1 or 2 issues down the line that, I hope Emma Fitzmaurice and his management team don't get caught up in this scenario that, similar to Conor Coonahan. If this rings a bell, Conor Coonahan was with Cork for 6 years and won All-Ireland titles with them. But Conor Coonahan probably had the best, we'll say, collective bunch of players at that time.
He never knew his first real 15, did he?
That's exactly where I was coming to, Tim. Conor Coonahan kept tying and mixing players, and I just felt that at the time, was probably his downfall, so to speak. So I think as the league progresses, yes, we've got to certainly stick with the young guys. They are standing up, they are grabbing hold of the jersey. But I think the big challenge for Eamon Fitzmaurice, in my view, Tim, will be Eamon Fitzmaurice, when the established players come back, Eamon Fitzmaurice will genuinely have to sit down with his management team, I feel, and he's going to have to leave emotion out of picking a team for championship when it comes to who's going to make his 24 and who's going to make his starting 15, and leaving emotion out of management when you're picking a team. That's a very, very hard thing to do. And Tim, if you look at all the players on show at the moment, and you look at the guys who are coming back with All-Ireland titles in their back pocket, and if you leave emotion out of it, then I think you can have a very, very exciting and balanced starting 15 come championship.
A nice challenge to have. Martin, finally, before I let you go, a young team that showed character down to 13 men and still got over the line.
They did. Look, they showed something there that we mentioned last week, Tim. They showed grit, they showed determination. But, when I look back on it again last night and looked at it during lunchtime again today, we spoke last week that, Kerry allowed Donegal to come out of the fence very, very easily last week. And, when you break that down and you tag it and you clip it, when I was reviewing it over the course of the weekend, it was an average of 6.5, 7 seconds before a Kerry defender or before a Kerry forward stopped the Donegal defender coming out of the fence. But if we look at the same comparison analysis on last Saturday night's game, that went from 6.5, 7 seconds down to 3.8 to 4.2 seconds. So that in itself, Tim, creates an intensity that, to the general public, they're hungrier, they're more intense, they're more physical. But yes, and that's all true, but it's true because the timing of their tackle, the timing of their intensity was drastically reduced. And fair play to the Kerry management for that, Tim. And
that's what Barcelona do. They give you 4 or 5 seconds if they lose the ball, get it back and keep it. So I suppose from a coaching perspective, that's what teams have to do. If you're without possession, there's a time limit in when you can get to that player. I
think so. You hit the nail on the head, correct. What is a concern, and I think Sylvester and John alluded to it as well, is when we look at other teams, and we will come up against the Mayos and the Dublins and the Tyrones, and I think Monaghan next week will be very, very interesting. Our middle eight, Tim, against Donegal, our middle eight, and this is the word that's been used on Terrace Talk with the last number of years. Our middle eight contributed to 111 for the Donegal match, whereas for the Mayo match, our middle eight contributed 1-7. Now, nice. Here's the stat that's, and again, it's just something I'd be looking out for personally myself, from a development point of view, from the midfield pairings, is we've played 140 minutes of football, Tim, and our midfield pairings combined have contributed 1 point from play.
Yeah.
So when we go up against the big guns, although we will still want our middle 8 pushing and penetrating, we will expect a big increase in performance from a scoring point of view. Because 1 point over 140 minutes certainly won't cut it as the championship progresses. Then.
Yeah, interesting. We discussed that earlier, that what Dublin did over the weekend, 1-5, their 2 midfielders. So I suppose what's happening overall, Martin, before I let you go, is that the experience of these young guys, this will stand them for the future.
This will stand to them, and fair credit to the Kerry management for sticking with them. Surprised not to see Cormac Coffey. Cormac didn't do a whole pile wrong, but I was surprised not to see Cormac start. Extremely surprised not to see Dahi Casey take to the field to play. But look, they're sticking with the youth, sticking with freshness, sticking with enthusiasm in those fresh legs. And Tim, long may it continue.
Long may it continue is right. Thanks a million, Martin, for coming on. I know you're heading away to training there with your Limerick side. We'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Take care.
Of course, that's Martin Horgan, who was on last week with us on Terrace Talk. John King, we went right up to our half-forward line before the last break. Can we mention our full-forward line and what they brought to the table on Saturday night?
Well, I suppose looking at David Clifford, David is showing great promise. I mean, as a minor, he was outstanding. Again, the last night, he kicked the point and he was hobbling on one leg at the time. So it was great credit to him to be able to do it. Paul Gainey, I suppose we all know what he can do. What did he get? 3 points, was it? I think from play. And Barry John got 3 points from play, so you can't argue with those scores. I think, in fairness, we kicked 114 altogether.
Yeah, and that was
game,
play and from play.
From play, 114 and 145, and they kicked 1-2. So, and 1-7 from penalty.
So Kerry did good.
Can't argue with that.
Message from Mike O'Halloran. I got to all the league championship games and I agree with the panel. We must learn from last year. If a player shows potential, he must be kept on. Sylvester, does the panel think Eamon is holding something back for Dublin?
As in?
A player, stroke, a system, stroke, I take it.
Well, look, I don't think Eamon's even thinking about Dublin right now. I think his whole modus operandi right now is look at young players during the league, keep trying out different things. As he said himself, build up a big, strong panel. I think what Eamon is trying to achieve is putting pressure on the guys who are lying in watch, waiting, and saying, look, lads, if you want to come back here and get that jersey, he's delighted that the young players, he'd have to be delighted that the young players are showing him all of this. And anyway, you'll never surprise Dublin. I mean, it's not going to happen.
It's not going
because Dublin will know what Sean O'Shea had for his breakfast in Cork.
Right, and what David Clifford had for dinner.
And any team worth their salt these days, the analysis that they do in the opposition goes down as far as their favourite pudding.
Yeah. That's how much they know. Any few stats for us?
Yeah, Jack Barry, we were talking about him. He 35 possessions. He had the top possession count, which is a phenomenal workload to put through. Now, he may not have scored, but a lot of the stuff I was very impressed by Jack, I have to say. His midfield partner, Barry, had 25, and Paul Murphy had 25. You know, they were the top 3 possession stats.
Paul is always there up near the top.
Paul topped also. I said he was a statsman's dream this week in the Kerry's Eye. Top assists with 3 assists. Top kickouts with 4 kickouts, 1. Paul Murphy. Like he's Ronan Shannon had the most tackles, legal tackles that is, right? 8 tackles as well. He really put in a really hard shift, but he has to stop fouling obviously because he's going to get caught, you know. We only won 16 out of 40 kickouts in the game, which was poor really. But
was that something similar to the week before?
No, it was a little bit higher the week before. But to be fair about this, we did play 21 minutes of the game with 13 men. That is the type of thing that's going to happen, Tim. You know, you have to be fair about that. The 114 from 115 from play. But I was talking to you, Tim, very quickly about the Laois goalkeeper. I also work for the Limerick football team, and I watched something new and exciting in that he's a fly keeper. John Shukru is the manager. He gets the ball, he comes out, he passes it to the fullback, he then takes off down the wing, somebody else drops into goal, and if the ball keeps going forward, he keeps on going forward with the play. And I've seen him pop up in the full forward line. I've never in my life seen anything like this. So we talk about the game changing and the Cluxton effect. This could be John Shukru, the man from Renard, could be now producing the new thing, fly keeper. Remember the fly keeper we used to have when we were young fellas with the 2 jumpers for goalposts? So keep an eye out. If you see Laois playing football this year, don't even know the guy's name, watch him.
Can you imagine the late great Joe Cahan, and if you saw his keeper,
he wouldn't go far.
60 or 70 years he wouldn't have passed Joe. How things have changed. if the Kerry management even think of bringing back the older players, shame on them. They served the county great in their day, but let youth take over. Now the older players should step up to the older players should step up to the mark and come out and say so and step back from inter-county play. John Kennedy, what do you think of that? Did anyone ever try to talk you off a Kerry team because of age?
Well, they didn't really, I suppose, too much.
You can't disband with all the old... You need... And an All-Ireland final day, you want your Kieran Donaghy's inside in that dressing room, don't you?
Absolutely. You see the leadership that Shane Enright last night, Paul Murphy and Paul Gainey are giving us. There's guys, look, I think the fellas know themselves, but it's going to come down to management at the end of the day. Look, who's going to stay and who's going to be told he's not wanted?
But surely they know by now.
You'd wonder, Tim,
February,
because,
John.
it depends on who's in training. We're not all fair with who's inside, but, I think they want to be making their mind up now, Tim.
Well, we've Donncha coming back anyway, because Donncha said he's doing with his club. He was here that night, Donncha Walsh, and he made an announcement. It was an exclusive for Terrace Talk that he was staying on. I think Kerry people in general will want Donncha Walsh.
They probably will, Tim. Nobody wants to see players leaving because there's always a disappointment to see some great player going. But there comes a time, I'm not just speaking about Donncha, in general, you have your panel inside, you pick your panel on merit, the 24 is going to be on match day, and whether they're 18 or 28, if they're good enough, they should be in there. That's the way I look at it. But I think, Eamon and the lads have learned from the last few years. It's all about legs in Croke Park, Tim, and these games are shadow boxing till you get to the August weekend. That's what it's about.
But is it a no-win situation then for Eamon Fitzmaurice? He's given youth its chance, a sustained chance, as we can see for 2 games, and we'd hopefully against Monaghan again next weekend. Then a few of the older players come back, and Eamon Fitzmaurice is under pressure to win in All-Ireland, let's face it.
That's the only way.
We can say this is the Kerry way. He might have got 3 years, at a county board meeting.
Something quickly. I was in the press conference today and we had this debate among us about what the expectation levels. Anybody who's involved in Kerry football at any level knows. John did it all his life. You have to win. So, of course, there's one thing Eamon Fitzmaurice can do to keep people happy this year. Not play young people, not play old people. Win the All-Ireland.
We'll now take a break.
Breaking down the weekend's sporting action. This is Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry.
You're very welcome back here to Terrace Talk, and close to doing the wrap on the weekend's game. Of course, I have John Kennedy, Sylvester Hennessy and John King in studio. A comment coming through to us. I agree with Sylvester about the older guys. They should be buying their tickets like the rest of us going forward. Oh, aren't we cruel at times?
Well, you see,
great servants to Kerry football and buying tickets and fewer. This will only drive the older statesmen.
Can I respond to that? I never said that, number one, right? I have been promoting the young players ad nauseum because I feel they should have been given a better opportunity up to now. But to ignore the qualities of some players that they have to bring back, that's just ridiculous. You still have to pick the best 15 players available to you. It doesn't make a difference what age they are. That's what I'm saying.
And it's all about as well what's going to happen in training. If there's an older guy better than a younger guy, what you do?
We were here in the autumn picking a Terrace Talk team in the championship. Do you remember it?
Correct.
How many of those fellas on the Kerry pan now? An awful lot of them.
Yeah, I agree. John Kennedy, overall, the run of the subs and everything, Kerry can go with confidence to Monaghan.
There's no doubt, Tim. We're on the crest of a wave at the moment. We're going well. We've 2 good victories behind our back. But look, it's still February, Tim. It's league football. This is a learning process for these guys. There's a step up. We know they were outstanding minors and under 21s, but there's a huge step up to league football. But let's not forget, there's a huge step up again from league to championship. And that's for down the road. We're going to Monaghan with confidence. It's going to be a tough one again. Different type of team, different type of, depending on the team Monaghan have out, will McManus and these guys be playing? If their leaders are playing, it will be a real test.
John King, I take it there's a bus going to Monaghan, maybe 2 buses?
There's 2 buses at the moment, anyhow.
Is this the overnighter?
Yeah, this is the first overnighter. This one and Tyler one. People ringing again today, even though we closed it off last Monday night, we still have people.
And our colleague here on Radio Kerry, Ambrose Donovan, I hear he's a mighty singer at the early hours of the following morning.
We met him in an ice cream shop above on Saturday night.
He likes his jelly babies. That's what Ambrose is saying. So a big weekend, and it's very important for Kerry supporters. You've done it down through the years to travel to these games.
Oh, we've fantastic supporters, and on the night above, it's like social because we have the meal, and then people relax, and then there's usually sing-song going. And just one thing there before I leave you, Nicholas Murphy from Talbot over New York was on to me earlier on today, so we'll send him best wishes from.
That's great. Great to have listeners in a faraway field to see.